Number two, I have the Knicks, not because necessarily I am in love with the acquisitions this summer. I still have a ton of concerns with this roster right now. You have to rely on Karl Anthony Towns as your rim protecting center. Now Towns has a lot more responsibility. Can he handle that responsibility? That's yet to be seen. Mikal Bridges with a jumper that, listen, I'm going to be fair. His jumper does look different. This isn't like, that's not the jumper necessarily that was with the Nets. So now you got to take his play with the Nets last year, which was very concerning. And now you got to add a broken jumper to it.
I have the Celtics first, and I have the Knicks second.
I do too.
Um, Celtics, I think they're going to be not as dominant as they were exactly last season, but I think they're still going to be a really great team. Uh, Oddly, a championship team who's coming into the season with like a chip on their shoulder because everyone has been so dismissive of their run to the title because of how kind of not lucky, but how easy it kind of was because of the injuries that they had to play against. But Tatum, his jumper looks a lot better than it did last season. That was really a point of contention of how bad his jumper was, especially in the finals. If that is better, and this team, as dominant as they were last season, if they're mostly healthy, I think they're going to be really good again. And I have the Knicks second, obviously. I actually thought about putting them first, but a few days ago we got the injury news of Precious Achiuwa is now going to be out for the first few weeks. They're incorporating the new pieces, and I know you want to talk about this, but obviously a big storyline has been Michael Bridges' jump shot.
Okay. We'll get to that in a minute. Um, I have the Celtics number one, defending champions, best roster on paper still, and I think Joe Mazzulla has broken his coaching demons. I think he proved a lot of people wrong, and I respect it, and I'm going to be fair. And I think Joe Mazzulla has elevated himself to be one of the better coaches in the NBA. I really do, and I think he deserves credit for it. Another reason, I think a big reason why you're saying the Celtics won't be as dominant is because of the Porzingis injury. Porzingis is not going to come back for a long time. I still think the Celtics will be fine. And to me, there's no case really why you can confidently put another team ahead of them. Talk about the weak path to the finals or whatever. As a Yankee fan, I'm getting a lot of similar, things. It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't matter who you play. You got to beat them. Okay. And you know what? I picked Dallas over Boston in the finals last year, right before we started, mainly because of that, and it didn't mean anything. The road didn't matter. Dallas
Right.
went through a way more difficult road than Boston did, and it didn't matter. It's this big reason why I'm picking the Yankees in the World Series. I'm going to have that on the other
Okay.
conversation. But I'm just telling you, it does not matter to me. It doesn't matter as long as you got to play who you play. And to be honest, I think it's up for debate on if the Knicks were as good last year as we might think, because Brunson did play in those games versus the Pacers, and I understand the injuries and whatever, right? I think it's up for debate on how good the Pacers are, because I was for a while thinking, yeah, they were lucked out with their path or whatever. But I'm actually pretty high on the Pacers this year, and we'll get to that. So that's why I have the Celtics number one. Number two, I have the Knicks. And the reason why I have the Knicks is not because necessarily I am in love with the acquisitions this summer. I still have a ton of concerns with this roster right now, mainly because we talked about it when the Cat trade happened. You have to rely on Karl Anthony Towns as your rim protecting center. And the last time that happened, a seven seed was the case. Now, D'Angelo Russell was the point guard for that team. So I guess like maybe don't, and Edwards was in his second year. So maybe don't put too much stock into it. But there's a reason why the Timberwolves traded for Rudy Gobert. Now Towns has a lot more responsibility. Can he handle that responsibility? That's yet to be seen. If he's in foul trouble, which he is a lot, that's a big deal because then you're taking the second best scorer off the floor. Um, Mikal Bridges. A lot is riding on this guy. I think a lot of people thought Towns was going to be the dude that was going to be criticized all the time. Still think that's possible. If Mikal Bridges plays the way that he has played in this preseason, which a lot of people are like, oh, it's just preseason, it's just preseason. To me, the flaws that you're seeing in this preseason could very well carry over into the regular season. And I think what a lot of Nick fans, listen, I, my thoughts of the trade are out there. I believe the Knicks overpaid for a player that is was not worth it for the direction that they were in. They traded five first round picks for a guy to build a Villanova team that never really existed because Dante DiVincenzo was gone. And considering DiVincenzo now has beef with Jalen Brunson's dad, it looks like those guys aren't going to be talking for a while, or at least a little bit. And Mikal Bridges now, Dante DiVincenzo was a sniper. Now you got Mikal Bridges with a jumper that, listen, I'm going to be fair. His jumper does look different. This isn't like, that's not the jumper necessarily that was with the Nets. So now you got to take his play with the Nets last year, which was very concerning. And now you got to add a broken jumper to it. So he's got to play defense, which, by the way, I remember what I know it's preseason, but I was watching a little bit of that game. And I think like the first defensive possession for the Knicks, it was a switch play with LaMelo and Bridges. And LaMelo just blew by Bridges and scored. And I was like, that was the defense I saw Mikal Bridges play a lot last year. So I understand the numbers are there, the durability is there. He's going to be playing shooting guard for this team, and he kind of can't shoot right now. And I think that's really concerning. And however, I don't trust any other team in the East more than I trust Jalen Brunson in the Knicks. Jalen Brunson has earned that. Tom Thibodeau has earned that. But the questions are there. And I just want to brace Knick fans. This year may not be as great as you were expecting. But the 2 seed, I'm giving it to the Knicks because I believe in Jalen Brunson to carry them to that spot.
I am not worried.
Okay.
Now, Bridges shot 2 of 19 from three in the preseason. That's really bad. And he was 0 of 10 in the last game. And he said that he has
First
been
the
trying to.
Wizards.
It was the Wizards, yeah. He said he's been trying to fix his jump shot since his days in Phoenix. And I don't know what it is. He has like he's releasing it higher than he like did before. So there's no hitch in it. It's just him adjusting, I think, to imp maybe hopefully improve jump shot, just a different jump shot. So I do think eventually it will improve. And defensively, I have the same concerns with Cat. And now that we've lost Precious, we're really sitting in the front court. If Cat has his foul trouble and if he's not a deterrence at the rim, it's going to be a struggle defensively. But I think Bridges together with OG Hart, who's kind of got to find his way in the starting lineup. He's voiced some concerns about kind of his role on this team now. I wouldn't be surprised if at some point he moves to the bench and we start Deuce McBride just to kind of give him more to do when he comes off the bench because now we're going to be relying upon him more to be a rebounder and to kind of play that 4 position rather than playing the 2 in the starting lineup or whatever position really he's playing. Um, but I'm not. I think this team's going to be really good. I don't think they'll be as good as the Celtics, but I do think they'll be better than they were last year. I think this is a 54, 55 win team. Um, but there's going to be obviously points in the season where people are panicking. We start the season kind of tough. Our first 4 games are against all Eastern Conference playoff teams. If we start 2-2, people are going to ring the alarms if Bridges struggles. But I think over the course of the season, they're going to find their way once they get more chemistry with each other, and I think they're going to be a really good team. So, do you have more thoughts or?
I just want to talk about the Josh Hart element because I saw this
Okay, yeah.
coming too. I mean, Knicks fans love Josh Hart. He was great in the postseason for them last year. Josh Hart is not for the Knicks to be the best possible team. Now he'll play crunch time. He should play crunch time with
Hmm.
them, but he should not be starting.
Yeah, I
If
agree.
it's just a too small a lineup, and I get it. He rebounds really well. That's for crunch time. And you were like, well, how about how you close the game? Well, starting the game matters a little bit too, and the majority of the game matters too, right? It makes sense to have a rim protecting, shot blocking big for 3 quarters of the game, and in the fourth quarter you can go smaller, maybe have more flexibility on offensively. JJ John Jastrzemski, who I'm a big fan of, and I think he's a great host for New York, New York, the New York podcast. Really good sports mind, really great sports mind. For top 15 athletes in New York, number 15, he had Josh Hart, and I thought that was insane because Josh Hart's coming off the bench this year. So you're fine. I mean, you're seeing it. Josh Hart doesn't really know what his role is on this team. His role is to be the 6 man glue guy because Dante DiVincenzo's gone. He's got to be that dude. And he's got to be, whenever they call his number, he's going to be ready to step up. And he's got to be okay with not starting because the best idea of this Knicks team is with him not in the starting lineup.
Yeah.